I really don't want to take more of your time from your really busy schedule, while you're running your company, uDirect IRA Services. Again, that's, for you boys and girls who are watching or listening to this podcast, that's the website that you want to go and check. If you have um, came across IRAs before, self-directed IRAs, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So the link to learn more about Kaaren and her company is going to be included somewhere in the show notes, so go and find that. But really much appreciate you for coming on the show. Thanks for taking time to do that. Thank you.
I really appreciate you inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So obviously, let's dive in and let's explain people, because as we talk kind of briefly, I'm based out of states, but I came across more than a few of your podcast episodes. Obviously, you're well known in the industry, and especially among real estate investors, because you've been a real estate investor, property manager yourself. And I came across a podcast somewhere. I even heard that you've been a DJ before.
Yes.
Yeah.
I used to be on the radio. Yeah, I did. I'll do it for you if you want.
No, you have a voice for it for sure. No, that's amazing.
Okay.
It's just such a diverse, spectrum of experiences. But can we talk about self-directed, again, IRAs, and what is the purpose of it for people who don't know and never heard about this before?
Yeah, the purpose of self-directed IRAs is to take the retirement money that you've saved and move it into a self-directed IRA account so that you can invest in alternative assets outside of the stock market, so that you can build your retirement wealth. And you can choose your own assets. It's not a fund manager doing it for you. It is self-directed, so you are selecting all the assets, and then you've got more control.
So when you're talking about selecting assets, so what type of assets can individuals? And is this self-directed IRAs? It's more for everyday individual, let's say a person who is residing in the U.S., everyday individual, or more of a sophisticated individual who has some investing experience before?
Right. Well, self-directed IRAs, it can be for just Joe on the street, or it can be for very, very sophisticated investors. It just depends on what asset class you like. But the kinds of asset classes people invest in with us, number one is private equity. And sometimes you do have to be what's called an accredited investor to invest in syndications, private equity. But also our account holders will invest in, real estate buildings, or performing and non-performing debt, or they'll take their retirement account and actually lend it to other people. Then those individuals will pay their IRA back that debt. It could be other things too, like even cryptocurrency, or it could be precious metals.
Mm-hmm. And what people don't know the most, or maybe because obviously, as I mentioned before, I came across their website, and people who are in the US, you can go and check it out. Again, that link is included, to check Karen's company, where you can learn more about self-directed IRAs and other services that the company provides. But what would you say is some of the misconceptions? Because I'm sure people, they read online, they hear this thing, you mentioned it now. You can find also Kaaren, she's doing a lot of content, reels and Instagram stuff. So, and obviously other people too. So what misconceptions maybe you hear amongst other people when they try to describe self-directed IRAs?
There are a few misconceptions, right? And so one of them would be that in order to invest your IRA into, say, for example, a piece of real estate, that you have to withdraw the money and then make the investment. It's not like that at all. Just like when your IRA invests, say, in a mutual fund, you don't withdraw the money and then invest in a mutual fund. Your IRA simply acquires an asset by making a disbursement. So it's the same with the self-directed IRA. We just disperse the funds from your IRA out into that deal, and then your IRA receives the proceeds. So that's one misconception. Another misconception with self-directed IRAs is that if your IRA is buying a real estate, like a building, that your IRA can be used as a down payment on a regular kind of a loan, like a conventional conforming loan, an FHA loan, VA, whatever. An IRA cannot accept that kind of debt. And it's really because those lenders will have no recourse against the IRA. So when an IRA wants to invest in real estate and you want to take on leverage, you have to use something called a non-recourse loan. Not a lot of lenders to choose from, but we do offer a list for anyone who wants it if you just email us at info@udirectira.com.
So what will be an option, I mean, for people? Because, you're talking about, so is that again, if you have, invested or have your self-directed IRA in different, various asset classes, right? I even saw you've been talking about gold, right? So that's another asset class. Real estate. So how does it look like? Is the once you have the portfolio, so called, right? So do you keep everything there? When is the time to cash out? Can you cash out? What's the right kind of angle or strategy when it comes to self-directed IRAs? Like if to
Right.
build
Well, so
up.
when you have a when you have a self-directed IRA, you're making these decisions about market timing. And of course, all investments carry risk with them. So you're doing your due diligence before you invest. So
Mhm.
you're making the decisions. Okay, I want to get into this asset, but you're also thinking about your exit strategy at the same time. If
So
you
we have to
invest
be
in precious,
sophisticated.
you have to be sophisticated, right? So if you're going to invest, say, for example, in precious metals, you can decide what your long-term play is before you make that investment. I'm going to invest in precious metals and hold them for this long or until it hits this value, or you're going to make these decisions ahead of time. If I'm going to invest maybe in say a syndication, well, then I'm going to talk to the syndicator, the asset sponsor, about what is the scope and the period that they will be holding my capital, and when will I get return on my capital, and when will I get return of my capital.
Mhm.
And so you'll be making those decisions before you invest.
Mhm. So, and as far as I understand that return on capital, I mean, it's coming back to your account, right? So, which is it's not cash, it's not liquid. So, if you want to liquidate some of the cash, if you want to take some out, do you pay like a capital gains to regular income tax? I mean, how is this if I want to take some of the money out?
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. When there's money in your IRA, it always belongs to you. It's in a retirement account, so it has this tax protection that's in this little bubble, but you can always have access to it. Now, before you're 59 and a half, if you take the money out in a pre-tax account, you'll have to pay income tax.
Mhm.
And in any retirement account, if you take it out before you're 59 and a half, you pay a penalty, a 10% early withdrawal penalty. But then you can have the money, the remainder. You can have those dollars.
Mhm. And what's the minimum investment for people?
There's no minimum investment for a self-directed IRA at all. So you can invest, people can find small things to invest in, maybe like a $5,000 loan to somebody who is completing a rehab or something like that on a piece of property. Your IRA can lend money, in small bits, so like micro loans, you can do that. But there is no minimum, there's no maximum. So let's talk about the limits, right?
Mhm.
So the limits of self-directing is that you're limited to how much you can contribute to an IRA, but
Mhm.
you're not limited to how much your investments can earn. That is not capped. So
Mhm.
your IRA can invest and have an unlimited, dollar amount of proceeds come back.
Mhm. Okay. And how do you generally see? I mean, when it comes to, because obviously, I'm sure people that they're already asking questions in our comment section. Give us the recipe, okay? Maybe self-directed IRA, no limit how much you can invest. It sounds like maybe a decent strategy that an individual to follow, especially if somebody's already at least been exposed to some type of investment before, and they can make those kind of exit strategies themselves. What type of diversity portfolio are we talking about? Again, as I mentioned, there's gold, there's real estate. Um, what do you see other people doing, like buying REITs? Like, what else is available for people?
Right. So our investors or our account holders are investing again in a wide spectrum of assets. And typically these assets are part of their overall retirement portfolio, which may include life insurance, might include annuities, not in the self-directed IRA, but elsewhere. They may have stock market assets elsewhere, not in the self-directed IRA, but
Mm-hmm.
these alternative assets in their self-directed IRA are part of their overall retirement portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
So the asset classes that they can choose, I mentioned it varies, right? You mentioned a REIT, that's a great asset. I mentioned a few other asset classes like notes and debt and
Mm-hmm.
other things like brick and mortar real estate or businesses, lots of different things. But what you want to do when you're investing with a self-directed IRA is educate yourself. So listen to podcasts, learn as much as you can, talk to other people who are also investing in alternative assets. What's their experience? How have they succeeded? Because when you're doing a self-directed IRA, we are not offering you any asset. So it's self-directed. You come to us and you tell us what asset you'd like. So we're not telling you if it's a good or bad deal. You are considered to be the investment expert.
You're your own
in what you're investing in.
You're making decisions for yourself. Yeah.
Right. You're making decisions for yourself. Right.
Yeah. That's what it's called. Self-directed, self-managed, everything self. But I come across quite a few people, obviously, by doing these podcast episodes, and I don't know, it has been recent. I'm sure it has been for a long time, and maybe you can confirm that a lot of multifamily syndicators are, are advising or seeking for people who, who would like to invest through self-directed IRAs. So maybe can you explain the process, especially for those maybe newbie multifamily syndicators who are looking to raise capital, maybe during these volatile times? How can they, get access to people and maybe help them invest into some of the syndication deals that they have through self-directed IRAs?
Sure, I'd be happy to explain. If you have a self-directed IRA and you're looking to invest in an asset like a syndication, it's really a three-step process. You open the account, very simple. You go on our website, you open an account, you fund the account by transferring an IRA, rolling over a 401k, or you could just contribute. And then you give us the documentation, the contract for the asset that you want to invest in, showing the IRA as the investor, not you personally, but the IRA is the investor. And then you give that to us and we disperse funds. Now your IRA has invested and all the proceeds come back to that IRA. So that is essentially the process, but we can't leave out the most important part of that process, which is due diligence, as we mentioned. You have to do your due diligence, do your research on the asset. And that's really the most challenging part, is truly understanding the asset that your IRA is investing in.
And one of those, when it comes to due diligence, is obviously making sure that the syndicator is registered with the Securities Exchange Commission, right?
That's true. You really want to make sure, like you say, yes, make sure that the asset sponsor is registered with the SEC. If you want to check out that asset sponsor and find out if they're a bad actor or not, you can go to FINRA, F-I-N-R-A. FINRA is a website, and they have something called Broker Check, and you can put their name in the Broker Check platform, and it will come up if there are any grievances against that asset sponsor. You definitely want to do that before you invest with somebody who has to go through the SEC. Not every deal has to be approved by the SEC, but if it does, you can go to Broker Check and check out those people.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. So, and just by the way the self-directed IRAs are, it sounds like it's not really like passive investing, as we speak about syndication, where you can be LP on a deal and you can receive just a check, every quarter or 6 months or a monthly basis. So it is different from that passive investing, right? So you talked about, getting the percentage. So how often is that, like, depending on asset class that you invest?
You bring up a really good point that with self-directed IRAs, or really any investing, even if you invest in something called a passive investment, it just means that you're not swinging the hammer and you're not doing the work, right? But it's never passive, because you always have to be on guard about, are you actually receiving the proceeds you were promised? It may be your IRA invested even in a rental property. Are the renters paying the rent? So you always need to be opening your account, looking at it. Are proceeds being posted? You want to check with the asset sponsor and ask them, is this deal performing as they expect? And you want to be the squeaky wheel, because that's the way to get paid first, I would think, in a deal, is to make, if they know that you're up to speed, you're savvy, you understand the investment, and you're checking up on them, it'll keep them on their toes. So a passive investment doesn't mean you just set it and forget it and go on a vacation and forget you ever invested. It just means that you're not active in the deal. You're not a general partner. You're not swinging the hammer. You're not going out and, checking or picking up checks or something like that. You're a passive investor, but always checking up to make sure that your deal is coming through as promised.
And how often that checking should be done?
I think once a month is prudent. I mean, you log in once a month to your account. You can download, we provide a PDF account statement for our account holders. So download that PDF form every month into your own hard drive, so you save it. And check and see, hey, were the proceeds I expected, did they hit? And we do the record keeping. So we've got all the record keeping. We do the tax reporting as well. So we're going to report to the IRS the value of your account and also any withdrawals, that sort of thing.
And so again, coming back to this, choice of portfolio, choice of options that you can invest through self-directed IRAs. Because you mentioned you don't provide that, advice type, for people to where invest, in terms of making decisions. So where do you see some of your maybe other clients, and again, for people who are maybe they're really interested to invest, but they don't know where to start, where do they seek for this different information? Because I mean, there's so many different choices. Obviously podcasts, blogs and whatnot, but maybe in terms of just the resources for people to start kind of build their knowledge in terms of the, investment choices.
Sure. Okay. So, right. So many investment choices for sure. And so I'll just talk about my own personal experience. Right. Like, how did I decide where to start investing? And that was that. Well, first I was in the mortgage industry. And as such, I was looking at people's, tax returns, and I could see where they were investing. But understanding mortgages and understanding real estate gave me just a really awesome foundation of what so many self-directed assets are based on, which is real estate in some. Yeah. So I would have a general knowledge of real estate. And even if you don't mean to be a realtor, why not just do a 30 clock hour class and get a real estate license? It's not that hard. I've had real estate licenses in 3 states myself. And, I've taken these tests, and you take them, you take the prep class, you pass the test, and then you know what you're getting into. I think especially anyone out of college, do that for yourself so that you understand just the most important underlying asset you're probably ever going to have in your life, which is your primary house. Now, of course, you can't have a primary home in a self-directed IRA. Assets in a self-directed IRA have to be for investment purposes only. But if you want to start deciding what asset classes you want to invest in, just start learning about them. You have to do this. You have to find, like, for example, I went to something called WealthCon in Las Vegas, and it was really fascinating. It was people talking about all different kinds of ways to build wealth. And then there were so many people. There were at least 1,000 people there I could talk to. What are you investing in? How does it work? How is it structured? Did you ever make a mistake? And it gave me a real target-rich environment to talk to other investors about what was working for them. So you have to make a very active decision to get out there and learn about investing. Now, again, podcasts, then you can sit back in the comfort of your own home, right, and listen to what other people are saying about their experiences. But I really like talking to people one-on-one and hearing about what, how their deals went, what worked and what didn't work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Part of the events, and I'm sure that the conversations have been around, maybe you can give some insight from that. How much of the conversation, especially when it comes to a talk of building wealth, is going around blockchain, and is some of that kind of self-directed IRA strategy can be applied to investing into some of the blockchain products like cryptocurrency and whatnot?
Right. Cryptocurrency is extremely popular. It's kind of the Wild West. I would say it's definitely the Wild West as an investment, because it's something that's just based on nothing. There's no underlying asset, is there? It's just...
People complain about dollar. They said they took off, Nixon took off the gold, and they're complaining about dollar. And Bitcoin and crypto is a different level. Sorry. Yeah.
You're right. We're off the gold standard, and you're right. Crypto is 10x or a million x off any kind of a standard, but it still has perceived value. What is value? It's what a willing buyer will pay and what a willing seller will accept. That is the definition of value. Okay, so it may not have some underlying asset, but cryptocurrency is very, very volatile. Is it the wave of the future? Perhaps. So this is, again, an asset you want to study and research. And every investor I know has some crypto. We do permit crypto investing. In fact, even we use Coinbase to help our account holders invest directly in cryptocurrency if they wish. But recently, we've seen big swings in value, a huge swing up in the spring, and then in the summer, a big swing down So you just don't know what that asset is going to do because it's early days. But yes, you can absolutely invest in cryptocurrency. And it's certainly one way you can diversify your portfolio.
Yeah, yeah. Again, yeah, so diversified portfolio, because it's not really, it's super volatile. And I mean, I know people who are 1,000% in, and they're talking about, if it's a Bitcoin or any of the cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin, this particular person has been talking about, it's gonna go over 100,000, like 100,000, like next year, and then like 5 years later, I'm still like, okay. But again, it could be a long-term strategy, right? There's just another way to diversify your portfolio, right? So
yeah, I totally agree. And I'll tell you something. When I very first got into self-directed IRA 17 years ago, everyone was into the Iraqi dinar. It was about to blow up. And for 17 years, I've heard the Iraqi dinar, and I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen any of this pay out. Neither have our account holders. So when you're investing, you are putting your money at risk. It's like going to Vegas and putting it on the table, when you invest, because you really don't know what, if you're going to get money back. Now, in Vegas, you've got odds, and if you can do math, you can calculate what your odds may be, and you can try to have some idea of what your return might be. But investing is a lot of risk, and so you have to have a stomach for risk to be an investor, just to begin with.
Oh yeah, of course. I completely agree. And for me, investing in cryptocurrency, like in Bitcoin or any of the cryptocurrencies, it's not, you're not really an investor. Like obviously maybe you have to have, especially now where the cryptos are in terms of the price per token, like it could be expensive. So you might need some obviously cash. So maybe you already know how to invest, and maybe you're pulling cash from real estate deals or passive investments, and you really want to roll that and buy crypto if you want to do that. But if somebody brought crypto for $2 in whatever 10 years back, that was just luck. Or maybe, I don't know if anybody predicted that that's going to go to where it is right now. So even if it's going to go to 100,000, 200,000, a million, like at the end of the day, like unless you're educating yourself how to continue to diversify your investments and become a better investor, once you're going to be able to cash everything out, you're going to spend it all, probably. So, it's just, for me, it's luck. And what we're talking about here is really diversifying your portfolio, becoming a sophisticated investor, which requires you to go and learn about these different asset classes, golds, stocks, REITs, real estate, insurance, mortgage, whatever that is, right? So how much, because we're talking about building wealth, right? So what do you typically see in terms of really performing, kind of portfolios of people who really, using self-directed IRAs and kind of using it to invest that in different options? How long, people need to wait? If that's a question, obviously, maybe everybody has different targets in terms of wealth or being rich. Right. For some of those could be 100,000. For some people, 100 million is not enough, right? But where is the cap? Like, okay, like I have maybe enough money to cover my expenses and whatnot. We're talking about, and again, it depends on how much you want to really, direct, but how many years? How quick can somebody build wealth and build?
I would say that there's no recipe for this. There's no recipe for any concrete parameters around investing. Sometimes you're a really good investor because you just got lucky and you invested in an up market. And then other times you invest and then interest rates go up 5%. And suddenly you're in a syndication deal and your syndicator, your asset sponsor, is calling you for a capital call. And now you have to put more money back in the deal just to stay where you were. So you just don't know. Black swans, right? Unexpected events occur all the time. So just understand your asset class as best as you can, but expect the unexpected. But with self-directed IRAs, what makes them great about investing is this. When you do invest and the money does come back into the account, the proceeds are not taxed. They're not diminished by tax. They're either tax-free in a Roth type account or tax-deferred. So what that means is all the money, all the proceeds you just received, those dollars can go back out into the next deal and compound faster because it's not diminished by tax. That's the beauty of self-directed investing. Investing itself is one thing, But self-directed investing means whatever proceeds you have are not immediately taxed. They're either, again, tax-free or tax-deferred.
Yeah. So again, it is a different strategy. If somebody really wants to receive that monthly check and go and buy a Rolex or a nice car, maybe it's not going to be your choice for that, right? But to have,
it's definitely not the choice to go buy a Rolex, because self-directed IRAs, retirement accounts are all about the future, right? They're all about saving for later. They're not about paying your mortgage. They're not about buying groceries. It's all about saving a nest egg so that when you're old, to the point that you can't work, that you've built something for yourself, a little nest egg, so that you can sustain yourself after your working days are over.
Exactly, because people do make mistakes, right? And maybe buying a Rolex could be a good investment to an extent, but even if it's going to appreciate 1,000%, and you bought your Rolex for, you know, 5,000, 15,000, whatever the price is, and now you can, you know, you get 1.5 million when you're 70. I don't know, depending where you are, especially if you're in California or any of those states, like you cannot live off 1.5 million 30, 40 years from now. So you definitely need some sort of a egg, a nest egg that you can rely on, right? And obviously,
you really do.
Yeah.
You bring up a good point about the Rolex. Your IRA would never invest in a Rolex. And I'll tell you why. Because an IRA cannot invest in life insurance contracts or collectibles. That's what the IRS says. They say that, their rules. So if your IRA were to purchase a Rolex, that would be considered a collectible. And that would mean your IRA had committed a prohibited transaction by investing in a disallowed asset. And so when your IRA commits a prohibited transaction, that little tax protected bubble of the IRA bursts. And now your IRA is subject to taxes, penalties, and maybe early withdrawal penalties as well. So you definitely want to steer clear of what we call prohibited transactions. And investing in a disallowed asset is a prohibited transaction.
So would you advise for people to also on the side, while they're thinking about their investment decisions, to have like a financial legal advisor, tax advisor? What else people do have to make those better quality decisions when investment?
No, I would definitely advise anybody who is interested in being an investor, really on any scale, to have an extremely good tax person, because you want a tax person, a good tax professional will help you keep more of what you earn. So that is probably the first, the first little branch on your tree of advisors, right? The next thing would be a good attorney, a good contract attorney to review the contracts that you're about to get into. Yep. Let them look at it, because they have different eyes. They're educated. They'll see maybe little quirks that we may not see as just, the average citizen here. So I would have a good attorney. I would have a good CPA or tax professional. I would have a very good financial advisor. I have a good financial advisor, and she has helped me over the years for quite a few years to make some good decisions. And we always have conversations about various asset classes. She invests outside of the stock market. So we talk about her alternative assets, my alternative assets, and compare notes. What's working, what's not, what hiccups did we have, and what home runs did we have?
Yeah. So it is like investing is always the same. I think, if you look back, and obviously now we have more choices when it comes to those, asset classes, right? Cryptos and maybe, REIT options. They're just different options. But it still remains the same probably as it were 50 years before, right? It's still over time, compounded over time investments, smart investments, right? Which requires you to be educated and make those smart investment choices, right? Just like everything else in life, unless, as I mentioned, you bought Bitcoin and you got
you said something I got to comment on. Didn't Einstein say that one of the wonders of the world is compound interest?
Oh, yeah.
It's magic.
Everybody speaks about it, yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. I just had to jump in on that.
Warren Buffett speaks about this all the time, and one of the world's greatest investors, and it is what it is, right? So I think people, we these days, especially, and I think social media is here to be blamed for that. Even though it's a great asset, another asset for business to have is, again, you're utilizing it, we're utilizing it through podcasts and different areas, types of content to really get attention and show people, okay, what we're doing is value, and it could be valuable for them, to use. But it's also to blame as part of that kind of chasing the shiny, object syndrome that we have, right? we're looking for
Squirrel.
something. Yeah, exactly. Which is, we have to be very much aware of that, because, a lot of people really talking about things that they're not really experts on. They just have an Instagram account, a couple 100,000 followers, and we think, okay, thought leader, I can trust them. Well, maybe you should spend, some time and do maybe due diligence before putting your hard-earned money into somebody else's advice and just making decisions like that with your investments. So
You do.
yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and she was talking to a friend, and she was talking about having $200,000, and we were talking about what she wanted to do with it. Was she going to park $200,000 in one asset or $50,000 in 4 assets? And then she decided, well, what she would do is park $50,000 in 4 different assets and learn from that, because she recognized that some will perform and some will be duds. Some will be home runs and some will just completely fail. So as an investor, you have to expect the home run and the failure, because you're going to wind up with both at some point.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. It's just like also Mark Cuban talks about it. And obviously that's a different situation that he talks about. You need to be lucky once, right, to really score in terms of business. And obviously his business, his type of investments are different investments. Maybe you want to score more than once to really build that nest egg, when you're 70, right? But still, really, you're going to be making mistakes. So I think it's really smart what you did, really just learning from the progress, because she knew you're going to lose money either way, but it's the lessons that you're going to take away. That's priceless, right?
Yes, that's a price of education, isn't it?
Oh yeah, exactly. So you either pay the price or either way. But look, Kaaren, again, this was very, very helpful. So for me, being out of states, you gave me a really solid foundation and the perspective that I was looking for in terms of self-directed IRAs and what it is. Because as I mentioned before, I came across quite a few of your podcast episodes, and a lot of syndicators in the space are interviewing you. And I was like, I need to learn about this, and I need to, bring you on the show and give people some insight as well. I think it could be valuable. So, again, for you guys and girls, if you're still watching this, you can go and find Kaaren and her company, uDirect IRA Services, which are included in the show notes, and reach out. Again, she has lots of great information available, lots of blogs, which are still coming out, lots of content, which is still coming out. And to some extent, again, she can give you an advice, in terms of what the self-directed IRA is and how they can help you to build that nest egg over time. So again, thank you for that. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for providing all this great insight.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.